Oops, as I knocked my camera
Oh,
over.
that's a way to start it off. Oh, oh, hey guys. See some folks and they're over here chatting, but it's not showing up on the screen yet.
Yeah,
Looks like Norbert's here. Sharon.
it's back. Just a touch.
Norbert's working on some shelving.
Let's see.
I must have inspired him. All the shelves I've been building. See,
You know,
yeah,
I always I always open up a screen to monitor the stream, and half the time I forget to mute it.
well, one of
Oh,
these days, maybe if I get a like studio, I can set up another monitor. But I had to bring my laptop that I use for my editing out here to do it. So, sure as I do it in the house, if somebody will ask me
well,
a question, I won't have any of my stuff.
yeah, I know. I joke about you being a gadget junkie. There we go. But yeah, down here I've got so my main screen is a 40-inch smart TV, and then my monitor is a 24-inch monitor, uh, HDMI monitor. So yeah, I've got that pretty good. I got that pretty good. Yeah, Clack is teasing me in his tank top, and he just showed me the temperature there is 69 degrees. While I'm sitting, oh wait, temperature's gone up. I told you it was 31. It's now 32. So that
No,
means
no, I got it got hot here today. I actually had to go take a shower and everything because I was covered in sweat and sawdust and dust. I have been knocking out my spring project list. Pressure washed the back porch yesterday, and my wife finished it up today. She got a new pressure washer. And guys, if your wife doesn't ask for power tools, then you know you messed up somewhere. But she got her new DeWalt pressure washer for this year, the most powerful one I can get that she can still lug around. So been working on that. Been doing some cleaning back here behind the shop, trying to get some of this wood out of here because I'm running out of space. And then had a buddy come over wanting to mill some lumber up for a dog kennel that they're building, and so I actually knocked the cobwebs off the sawmill and milled up maybe like 4 or 5 logs and cleaned up around the mill while they were here. Because my buddy, he says he comes over and wants me to do it, but he actually likes running the mill. So I let him do the cutting, and I cleaned up around the place, blew the leaves out of the way.
I I was out. I think I showed you a teaser picture of this, but I had a big cherry slab. Well, I shouldn't say big. I had a.
Mm.
It was about a 2 inch, so an 8/4 cherry slab, but it had. I got it for my friend, and the reason it was bad, it was about, I don't know, 18 inches wide and maybe about 2 feet long. It was kind of the cutoff, but it had cracking down the middle of it. So yeah, I took it to the bandsaw and the planer and the table saw and cut up a bunch of various blanks in roughly 1/4 inch from it. So going to be using that in some projects here coming up. So I did get out in the other shop this week a little bit and prepared some wood from some hardwood for myself.
Yeah, I got me a piece of red oak that when I was cleaning up some of the stuff that I had cut and stacked in front of the shop, I got a piece of red oak, just like 3/8. I'm gonna plane that down and come up with something for the machine to do. Because since getting this extended machine, I really haven't done anything that was extended other than a couple of cuts. So I want to test it out and see how it works. But yeah, sorry about that, Norbert. But my wife was inside doing her stuff, and you know, here in Alabama, when the pollen starts falling, it's something about Alabama pollen that makes you want to get out and like clean and like, oh, I forgot, I got the sweeper and put behind the lawnmower today, and get out of my box. Sorry about that, guys. I got a cat trying to get in my camera box over here. But so swept up a whole bunch of pine straw. The chickens are happy. Of course, my wife told me to quit putting it in there because you're not going to be able to see the chicken because they've got about 3 foot of pine straw in the pen now. But yeah, it was actually in the 80s today and really sweaty. I was very, very nasty. So I actually went and got a shower. So kind of on that part. I'm a little cleaner than usual. But yeah, the you need to come down and run the sawmill one day when it's not snowing.
Well, I don't know about that. Sounds like
He
I've
said he got
missed
to.
snow down there.
Oh yeah, you wouldn't see any snow. We didn't get any this winter. Well, I think we got a couple of flurries this winter. Well, hello, there's Joseph. 56 in Tucson, down to 52. Feels like 50. It's cooler than it is here. It's hard to believe it's cooler in Arizona right now than it is here.
Well, they do have
I
mountains and a
can't
lot
get
of
light burn
elevation
right.
changes, so you can get some cold snaps there.
Is that a machine you're familiar with?
Mm, no. I've looked at some of their small CNC machines before, but no, I haven't. So that looks to be your typical open frame diode, and as long as it is so it is Gerbil controller support. So it's the LC40, you said, right? Yeah. Um, boy, that looks a lot like the one of them I just ran, the Jacoda a bit. I would say, it's a Gerbil controller. First thing would be to, well, in, they didn't say if they're running on Windows or Mac, but I would start looking to make sure that the computer is recognizing it. And then if it's not installing it in your, if you're not seeing it in your device manager, you might need to install the drivers for it. Usually, with most of the lasers, they include like a little uh, SD card that's on there, and there should be some drivers that you could add. And then if the computer sees it, then light burn is a matter of making sure that it can detect the COM port. Sometimes it doesn't like to find it right away, especially if it's defaulted to one COM port over the other. So I usually, on the device section, make sure the COM port is selected to choose instead of a specific one, so it knows to look through across your COM ports and such. But
Yeah, and he said it came bundled with their software, but when he installed Lightburn, it says everything is ready, but no movement from the laser. Now you do know, Skip, that you actually have to add that laser to Lightburn, right? There's a process for that. I'm not trying to, insult your knowledge or anything, but make sure you run through that install. You can't just install Lightburn and it work. You actually have to add that device.
and most uh, GRBL controllers need the what is it, the CH340 driver installed. That doesn't always natively install with their software, so you'd want to double check to see if it added those drivers for you.
But I don't know. Like I said, I don't have any experience with that machine. But if it's laser garble compatible, it shouldn't be no different than any of the rest of them. Hello there, Mike from Kentucky. Uh, yeah, that's the only thing I can. I mean, I would be more than glad to help you with it, but that would require a remote session.
Says all the correct drivers installed. A little frustrating. Yeah. The other thing is if they have their software, if they had software with it, make sure that's closed when you try to open in Lightburn. But if you say that it says ready, then it sounds like it is connecting to it. That
Let me ask you. Let me ask this: when you did the scan for my laser, did it detect automatically, or did you have to go in and manually add it? Because that'll tell us whether it's communicating with the controller. If the controller sent that data, then it should be communicating. We'll wait for an answer. But yeah, you had a couple of issues and hiccups with it not wanting to find the answer the first go around, didn't you, Steve?
Yeah, it detected it kind of funny, and so I had just deleted it and had it rescan for it. So, like I say, generally light burn, if it doesn't have a config that you're on, you can hit the auto detect and it should be able to find most of them and get the basics. That's where when
Yeah.
I do that though, if I've already had something set up, I'll make sure under the device tab that I try to clear that out and make sure that no COM port is selected, that it's stuck on choose, and that can sometimes help it detect it correctly.
Hello there, Super Duty. Canyon Lake, Texas. Yeah, he's saying he had to manually add it, so there could be, like I said, it could be a problem with the settings. If he, I mean, I don't know. It'd be one of them. I'd have to get my hands in the computer to be able to tell you for sure. But you might want to try their software first, just to make sure the machine responds at all. That way, you can eliminate the fact that it's not a light, it's not a connectivity issue. If you can use the manufacturer's software to move the laser, then you're getting good throughput to the machine. Then you just need to go back and figure out what the issue is with the settings in Lightburn. It does see the laser, but no movement. Yeah, either that or remove it from Lightburn and re-add it. Like I said, me and Steve both have had that issue before. Just dump it and add another one. And try it. Oh, well, if their software works, then it's not your connection. It's not the driver. So it's got to be a setting in Lightburn.
Well, and again, just make sure that their software is completely disconnected from it too. If that's the case, it might see it, but it might not be able to connect to it. So you could also go into the console and just hit $ twice to see if you get a response from it there to read back your Gerbil settings and such, just to double check that it's connecting right. So
Ah, there you go. I'll let you take this one first, Steve.
I've seen it online. No, both Clack and I have gotten the Atezer, Aetzer, the P20 Plus, which is their 20 to 24 watt laser. We both have been fairly happy with those. As you've seen, Clack has completely exploded his with the new rails and the big, what do you call it, Enclosurezilla and
Oh
such.
yeah.
Yeah, I've been very happy with the machine. I did have to make sure to take a little time to check the belt tension, which they make fairly easy, except for the gantry one. You got to kind of flip the machine upside down and loosen a couple of screws on there to get that to loosen up. But once those are tensioned, as with any laser, the machine's been running very smoothly, been running very well. And I like the quality of the construction of it. The chassis and the 35 is supposed to be even beefier. That's a very big selling point for me, is that it's a very sturdy, strong chassis. It is a little bit bigger though than your typical diode laser, so it's not going to fit into any of the commercial enclosures. I've been able to squeeze it into the larger ComGrow by blocking it up a bit, but I can't close the front screen all the way, which is fine. I use that bottom area just to kind of allow some airflow through. But yeah, no, I if their 35 is anything like their 20, I would be very happy with it.
Yeah, pretty much same. The 20, the 20, I guess it's 24 is what they say, 20 to 24. But it does a really good job. I put mine on shop air. Nothing against their air assist. It worked fine. It is just like any of the air assist pumps that you get that way. It was a little noisier than I liked, but so were the rest of them. And but I had to build my own enclosure. The 430, it being 430 deep or wide, whichever way you have it oriented, that is actually a plus for me because the X tool is 430 by 400, but out of the box the Aether is 430 by 430, and mine's now 850 by 430, which is awesome. All right, had to set the scan angle to 90. Really, all that changes is, correct me if I'm wrong, Steve, but all that really changes is the direction in which the laser starts and comes into the burn. Is that not correct?
Uh, so your
That's what
scan
I use it
angle
for.
should change the direction that your gantry is moving to do the actual engrave, and
Hmm.
you can set that to any degree you want. Some lasers, that's a trick to get rid of, an issue if you have banding. Um, it will lessen that. Um, I don't know that you should ever have to just to get it to run. You just might get a better quality based on the material and how your machine is mechanically set up. So that's generally, or a lot of people will do it. They'll run it in 0 degree scan angle, and then they'll run it perpendicular in the 90-degree scan angle, and that helps to really even out any of the engraving lines you might get as well. But that's doing a double scan on it. So
Yeah, the only time I mess with scan angle is like some of my designs that I built for my X tool, like my stove cover design. When I extended my machine because I wanted it long instead of deep, and I rotated the machine. When I do the stove covers with this machine, I did have to go from 0 scan angle to 90 because even with my graphic cut in half, it put the white space back in there basically. So I had to flip it 90 degrees to get the white space out of it.
yeah, and I have heard. I've only played around with a few of them. So the 3D pictures, sometimes they will actually run those at a 45-degree scan angle to try to make sure they don't get banding in either one of them. But so that can have an effect on your engravings like that. So
Yeah, that is true, Brian. I can second that. That's always a good
I,
start.
it does work a lot of the time. Trust me, working in tech support, we have people who just they will fight us tooth and nail. Like, I don't have time, or I've got too many things open. I can't restart my computer. And I'm like, well, I'm telling you, it'll fix it. So
Well, guys, I'm gonna go ahead and answer this question because I've been getting beat up about why are you spending so much money on a diode laser, blah blah blah. Well, the whole thing in a nutshell is, guys, uh, Acer sent me the base machine just to test out, to do a video, and to show you guys. So really, I don't have as much in this build as I would if I started from buying the machine and doing it that way. But the big reason why I did it is y'all know I do a lot of stove covers, like a lot, and that's where I make a pretty good little lick every month is off the stove covers. Well, I have been trying to streamline the process to get it faster and faster. The X tool, I've been using it to do my engraving of the stove covers, but because it's only 400 by 400, you can't put a stove cover down inside the machine because they're 20 and a half inches uh, from top to bottom. But when I got the Acer's 430 by 430, and now with the wide body kit on it, I can set an entire stove cover down inside there and not even have to take it out of the enclosure. And that was the reason for this enclosure was for the stove cover burns I do and a lot of the big jobs that I've had to turn down because I did have a smaller workspace. So to me, spend $5,000 on a CO2 that's big enough to do what this guy can do, or drop a few $100s fixing my enclosure. Plus, there was the whole thing of I like to be able to build and create things that I like. So it was a win-win for me. But yes, I am liking the P20. But I am also, and Steve can probably agree with me, the P30, was it V35 they're calling it? I'd like to see it as well. Uh, I think that would be a really useful machine. What a good. Yep. Let me find. Let me find this.
hey, it's funny because I asked you that a few weeks ago or whatever. They're just not as popular up here.
Hang on. I fixed to show y'all something here. Uh, yeah. Let me get
And
to it here.
while you're digging that
All
up,
right.
Brian's asking of an extension cable that could be used to run the Y split. So for those that don't know, the Acer has a single power supply that runs both the laser and the air assist, and then on the end of it, if I can get mine untangled here, it has a Y adapter to go to both. One goes to your laser, one goes to your air assist, but you're limited to maybe, I don't know, what do I got here? About 2 feet of separation here.
Not much.
So yeah, it does kind of limit you to where you put that. Um, yeah, they do make extensions. You would just need to make sure you get the right polarity uh, on the cables here. I will caution you though, DC power has losses over distances, and it doesn't like to be extended too much. So you'd want to make sure you get a pretty heavy gauge wire, so that you're not adding in any extra resistance to that. But you would want to measure the outer barrel of this, and you could find an extension for this. You should be able to find one on Amazon. I just haven't looked
Is
specifically for
is
this one.
it a 12 volt? I don't remember. I'd have it look. Most of these lasers operate on 12 volts, so
This is actually 24-volt output.
the 24. Oh yeah. If they say if you've got another machine laying around, you might actually, if you check the output of the power supply and the, you know, output of the one that comes with it, you might could just use another power supply if you had one laying around.
Yeah, that would definitely be an option too if you want to wire them separate.
Or you could just put it on shop air and you don't have to worry about it. That's what I did. I've got a pigtail just sitting down in there now. Yeah, for those of you that were asking, hang on a minute, let me show you here. Uh, this is my customer, and I don't know, you may have to do something on your end, Steve, for this to show. But this is the stove covers. See, there's a Clack Shack stove cover there. Videos. There's one. All right, more videos. They do a lot of videos. There's one right there. This place sells one of these manufactured homes. They give these folks one of my stove covers. So it's $100 a pop. That's all I have to. That's all I need to know. But I've got. Hang on. I've got some pictures. But yes, it's a bit of a southern thing. But is my video still doing all right
Yeah.
since I turned that off? See, there it is. There's what they look like. Now that's my wife's old stove. Nobody tell her I showed y'all this picture because she didn't like that stove. There's a new one now. But I make a lot of those. There's one in the making, and it basically just adds counter space to your stove. And I've got plenty of pictures of them in here, I'm sure. But anyway, enough about that. But yeah, I don't know if it's a southern thing or what. All I know is that I can't make them fast enough. I had to quit advertising that I sold them because I got backed up and just couldn't get caught up. But
Well,
they have purchased quite a few tools for me. 3/4 poplar. I still can't cut half each cedar. That don't make no sense. Cedar is easier to cut than poplar. I don't know. Must have been some really soft poplar. More, unless you got high moisture content, that could be it.
what kind of cedar? Some is going to be harder than others, but yeah, it's generally a softer wood, and poplar is pretty close there. As a matter of fact, came across a what is it, the Janka rating or whatever for wood.
Yeah, there's a website you
That's
can
a
go
good
to.
thing. Yeah, that's a good thing to look at. Various densities and hardness of woods to kind of see where you're at, and that's where basswood and I mean obviously balsa is the lightest, but basswood and poplar are way up there as far as being lightweight, low density woods. So
Yeah,
they tend
there's
to
your
laser
question
well.
right there. There's your question right there, Steve. That's the science guy question.
Um, I, so it's not going to be a linear. You can't just double your speed or cut your power in half. Ballpark figure, I would say start at around 150% of what you're running your 10 watt, jumping up to a 20 watt, and start running your material tests there. Really going to come down to doing some testing. I did a video on the ones within Lightburn as kind of just the baseline, being able to cut and engrave. But if the manufacturer doesn't give you any guidance on it, and of course it's going to be varying from one material to another, and you have your 10 watt settings, I would take that and multiply it by 1.5 times to start with.
Yes, sir. All right. What does constant power mode do, and why do you use? You want to answer that one?
Well, I took the last one. Let's let you go.
Oh. Uh, Constant power mode. Basically, a lot of these. If and Steve can correct me because there may be some things that I don't know about all these machines, but the ones that I've had, a lot of the machines, more or less, the power depending on, like, especially in the images or whatever, the power goes up and down as the machine goes across. You also have some of the machines, basically, the fast, like, I don't know how to describe it. Like when it's going to turn around and come back or whatever, the machine kind of like breaks. It overshoots the cut. And from what I can tell, I don't ever fool with that. I set my power and let it run, but heck, I don't. I mean, I don't know how to explain it exactly. I don't ever fool with it. The It doesn't pulse. It's from what? Oh, video's pixelated again. Okay, hang on. Let me kill that back screen. I don't know. It may be the internet out here. I'm fixing to overhaul the internet. But a lot of machines too. I know a lot of machines pulse when they run. Yeah, overscan was the word I was looking for a while ago. Thank you. But I really haven't found a need for the constant power mode. If you're doing image, you do not want it on constant power mode, or you will not get an image. So I really don't know what that may be. Kind of like wisdom teeth. It may be one of those things that was in there from back in the day, but I've never used it. I wonder what they say that it's designed for, but I don't want to lie to
Yeah,
nobody.
there's some various uh, things you can turn on and off. So on some of the DSP controllers and such, where you can actually have variable power even when you're on your cutting line, you can tell it to set your minimum power and your maximum power, so that as the laser is slowing down, it's actually backing off the power, so you don't get an overburn when it's moving slower around a corner, and or too little of a burn when it's moving fast on a straight line.
See,
So
you
that's
explain that much better.
well, that's in a cutting mode. In the engraving mode as well. Yeah, you can have it try to adjust the power as it's slowing down to make it, so it's accelerating as it's moving across it, getting up to speed, and then braking as it's getting to the point where it needs to stop and come back. And overscan can help that by telling it to go past it to allow that braking to happen outside the image. And that's where not having constant power mode can be an effect too. So a lot of times you just see it turned off with these diodes.
Yeah, like I said, I don't ever fool with it, but I felt like that. I felt like I was right. I just didn't know how to verbalize it. My bad. Uh, let's see, P20 Plus extension kit, sample materials, no tax, shipping from the website. Yeah, the P20, P20 is not cheap, but neither was my 20 watt X tool when I bought it either. Uh, but yeah, y'all, I mean, somebody mentioned it, but some folks call them noodle boards. I've heard them call all kinds of things, but a lot of people like them around here. And my wife loved hers when her stove was nasty and she couldn't, because the eyes will get like just the eyes don't look new anymore. She liked it then, but when she got the new stove where it's all nice and shiny and it's not 25 years old, she's quit using the board now.
Yeah, Brian summarized it too. There is that it's Lightburn is trying to do that automatically, where you don't need to manually set your high and your low rates. Um, it tries to automatically do that. Turning constant power mode on would be just a, why am I getting some weirdness? Let's troubleshoot this and turn this feature off. So
Yep. There you go. Sharon's having some sagging issues with her honeycomb, I believe. But yeah, I've still got those same two pieces of acrylic in there. Now they don't look pretty. They've got marks all over them. But yeah, it's kept the honeycomb up. You can use magnets. You can use whatever. I just with the way my table is designed, I didn't feel the need to raise it up any higher than what I did. But yeah, uh, the new enclosure has got magnets underneath it. So, but that just gives me a little bit of gap between the honeycomb and the reflective plate at the bottom. Somebody says that they got a sale going. Yeah.
if you order, I think I saw this on Amazon right now. They've got a $300 coupon on it. So just the base machine with no rails or anything, but that includes the air assist. Yeah, right now it's $9.99 with that coupon, because normally they're $12.99. So, and I think probably the same thing on their website as well.
Yeah. Yeah, I like it too. I haven't got a rotary for it yet, so I can't really do any rotary stuff in there just yet unless I use one of my others that I have. But the only downside, and I don't know if Steve's looked at this or not, but the only downside that I've saw to this machine is trying to unplug the stepper to plug a rotary in to the stepper is going to be tight because of where they put it at. So I very well may be using like try to get me like a little uh, adapter to where I can plug the rotary in without having to unplug the stepper. Just flip a switch and do it that way. I don't know yet, but they didn't
No,
really think that through for the rotary.
I mean, I would think in your situation where you do have extra machine and you've got this big one set up extended, I would probably just, for anything rotary. I mean, you're not talking about large objects. I would just use an additional machine. But
Well,
if you
yeah, but
don't
I
have
want to
one,
do it. But what I was wanting to do is baseball bats. That's why.
okay.
Yeah, see, because I've got there's a place in town that sells sporting goods, and the guy has approached me and wants to know if I can engrave baseball bats, and I had a lady to the other day want me to engrave baseball gloves, and we all know that baseball season is just getting started, and so I'm actually she's bring me a glove next week. I'm going to engrave it, and I'm pretty sure when I do, I'm going to have every little league baseball glove in the county down here at my shop. I've done got my two overflow guys ready, and I'm just going to send them to work, let them make some money. But yeah, I mean, that's what I usually do. Is I usually just use my 10 watt to do rotary stuff. But I really want to do baseball bats. So
So, is there such a thing as 1,000 by 1,000 honeycomb? Yes. As a matter of fact, you can order a custom size from CloudRay. You can tell them how big you want, and I'm not sure what their limit might be, but you got to remember there's some very large CO2 lasers out there that have some very large beds on them that have been using these things since before diodes have been a thing. So it's not cheap, but you can definitely get some large beds like that.
yeah, well, I've got a switch for. Matter of fact, a guy sent it to me, and I haven't even used my rotary since I got it. I got one that works for the X tool, and I'm curious if it'll work for the machine. If it does, that might be an easy fix, so that I can just like mount it right there where the rotary would go. But I don't know. We'll figure it out. Like Steve says, I've got other machines coming. And it may wind up being my rotary machine. Who knows? Uh, but for now, I've got the 20 watt. I've got the 10 watt. So I've got other options. But the baseball bats, that is a thing that I really really want to do.
So you've done this on one of yours.
Yeah. Matter of fact, one of my guys that does my overflows housing it right now, and he likes the thing. I've got the LM3 with the Comgrow 20-watt module, and it works as good as any other 20-watt machine I've ever used. Uh, the only downside is just like with the X tool, you're going to have two power supplies and you've got two on switches. That's really the only disadvantage. You are going to lose, you are going to go from 400 to 400 to around 380 by 380 on your work area because the module is significantly larger than what comes on the LM3. And if you don't go in and change your workspace area, you will have some far side slams because the machine's going to think that it can go 400 when it can't. So I would shrink my work area to 380 by 380. That just takes 20 millimeters off, but it keeps it from hitting anytime that you're trying to frame or anything like that. Uh, but that's it works good. I can't complain about it. I mean, it was really solid built. The only if I had to pick at it and try to find something negative, I wish you could take the shroud off of it, kind of like the Acer. That's just the only kind of thing that I wish I could do with the Acer that well, I'm not gonna say I can't. That I don't want to do with the Acer is take the cover off of it because I don't once in the enclosures I don't really want that cover on there. And you can take the one off of the Acer, but it looks a little goofy with it off. So,
Yeah,
have you?
that was one of my biggest frustrations with that machine. So if I was going to get nitpicky about it, is you know they you, it's a solid metal with a small window up front, and so you can do the power on framing, but you can't see it very well except for straight ahead. So framing with it is a little bit difficult, and I took that shroud off a couple times to clean it, and haven't left it off yet. But I may just take it off and start using it that way. But
Yeah, but there's the shroud if y'all can see that. If I'm not like auto flipping or anything, but it's made to the machine, and it's a bit of a I could think of ways that it would look better, but yeah, you could take two screws on it all and take it off, but then it kind of looks a little naked down there. So I'm still trying to decide. Woo! Got the GoPro. Oh, Steve, by the way, short pants.
so yeah, I mean, I've heard Ortour's working on it, and they do make good stuff and they do support their stuff well, but they don't rush them out by any means. So if you're wanting a 20-watt now, the Comgrow is probably a good way to go, as opposed to waiting for it. So
Yeah, like I said, I haven't had any complaints. The cleaning it is a little different if you're used to an X tool, but it's basically the same build. Uh, I actually like the air assist nozzle on the Comgrow better than I did the X tool one. So, but they work well. Like I said, my buddy's got it. I promoted him up from a 5.5 watt to a 20, and he's doing backflips.
so yeah, baseball season's coming up. You talked about it with baseball bats and gloves and such. I will just caution people though, make sure you understand what kind of leather is used on both those gloves and those balls. There are some that do have uh, some plastics or some more of a PVC type coating to it, and it's not going to be very fun when you go to engrave that, and can create some nasty fumes that are bad for you and your laser. So try to be mindful about that. Try to find out what it's made of, what kind of tanning the leather has. If it's got the chromium based tanning that a lot of them have, again that's going to have some fumes to it that you're not going to like too much. But um, you know, just do your homework on whatever you're going to put under your laser each time.
Yeah, it's always best to do it in an enclosure, not huff it.
Right, but I mean, when people talk about like cutting vinyl records, like, well, I've got good ventilation. Well, it's also caustic to the laser, and it will corrode and rust it as well. It's not
Oh
just that
yeah,
it's bad for you to breathe. So, it's
oh yeah.
and that those fumes are going outside to whoever's out there as well. So
I found with a camera I do not need.
Yeah.
I'm
So
not sure what this
as
is.
well, as far as the framing issue is, if you're using the laser to set up your jobs, then you don't need to worry so much about the framing. I know you've talked about it in the past, and I try to mention it too, that I still will frame it to double check that the camera is kind of lining up with what I'm seeing. But once you get a camera dialed in and you know what to expect out of it, yeah, you can line things up pretty well and not have to worry so much about uh, checking your framing and running it so many times.
Yeah, it's the my biggest, like I said, the problem that I have with the Acer is because the way mine's oriented, the little window that you can see in is on the right side of the laser now, and you can't rotate that thing. I tried to rotate it to orient it toward the front, and you can't because there's a indention made for the airline. That little window does me no good now because it's pointing that way, and my workstation is to the left of the machine, so I can't. The only way I can see the laser is to just, and this is what I've been doing is if it's something that I really got to frame, I just raise the machine up high, the head up high enough that I can see what I'm doing, and then once I get it framed, I drop it down to focus and go. But now that I got the camera in there and it is doing a really good job, I was a little worried with the bed being so large, but it worked out really nice. And I don't know if y'all caught that video or not, but it was dead on last night when I was using it, so that's good. Yeah, Brian, that is true, Brian. Brian is absolutely right, guys. Make sure you know what you're lasering. But yeah, yeah, Jeff, we have coyotes here, but the cats have a little cat door so they can stay here in the shack. And as long as they stay near the house, they've got backup in the form of two 80-pound German Shepherds, so they're good. Coyotes don't. Coyotes are shepherd food around here. I don't know that that's possible. I thought about it too if my fisheye didn't work, Jack, but I don't think that's possible because of Lightburn. I think it had limited to only one camera assigned to each machine. But but yeah, I had considered it, but this 180-degree fisheye that I've got is doing an awesome job. So, what do you think, Steve?
Yeah, I haven't heard of Lightburn supporting more than one at a time. Although I can see some definite advantages to dual or multiple camera setups for some extreme accuracy and or being able to detect more three-dimensional type things. But you need to have some sort of intermediary software combining them and then treating it as an individual camera that Lightburn could address, as far as I am aware. So
Yeah, but I can say that 180 degree at the, I think somebody asked me today, it was like 16 and a half inches or 16 and a quarter inches. It works with the 37-inch honeycomb. So I was a little worried. My buddy, when he come over here to pick up the other enclosure in the tour to take to use, he was like, "Oh man, I appreciate you leaving that camera in there." And I was like, "Nope, sorry, guy, sorry." 180 degree camera. It's in the video. Hang on, let me get the. I may get choppy if my video breaks out. Here it is, right here. I got the. But it's a. I've got two of them. I've also got one in the portable clack shack that I use, the enclosure that's in there, and it's only like 10 inches above the workspace, and it works fine. But that's the one that I've got in the enclosure Zilla over here. It's a power lift. Oh crap! I just lost my messages. Okay, something's going on with my messages. I saw
did
somebody
it
ask me about
disappear
the
on you?
power lift. Yes, and I'm hitting reload and it
Yeah.
won't reload.
So Jeff is asking, is the power lift worth the $180 price tag? The hand twist one is about $50.
To me, it is, but I mean that's personal preference, guys. I mean, just I'm gonna turn the chat overlay off and get it back on, I guess. It's personal preference. It was to me just one because it was cool, and Steve likes to point out that I'm a gadget junkie. So yes, it was to me. It works well. Would it have been a deal breaker doing it by hand? No. My Mon port, I'm building one inside the Mon port that's going to have a knob that you turn and it goes up and down. I took and got myself a lab jack and ordered some flexible, basically a little flex piece that goes on your impact wrench or your drill. And I have engineered a Z-axis on the Mon port that you just turn the knob and it goes up and down. I've just got to break my welder out now that I got a shot put back together, and I got to tack weld that knob onto the end of the shaft for the adjustment. And it is not letting me see comments again. I don't know what's going on.
All right. Well, can you see that I just popped up there?
Oh, go ahead and address that one. Oh, my messages just fixed themselves. I'll let you. This is right up Steve's alley, guys. This is right up his alley. So,
That's right. Well, so this kind of gets back to it. It depends, but generally speaking, this is a holdover from a couple of things, and it has to do with kind of manufacturers doing things on the cheap. So if your laser is appropriately spec'd with appropriate cooling on them, no, running them at 100% power should not do any excessive damage to them. As a matter of fact, the way these operate is more of a pulse mechanism. So they're really running at 100% power most of the time. It's just how frequently they're pulsed at that 100% power to get your 50, 60, 70%. What it's run into is twofold: from CO2 lasers and early diode lasers, where manufacturers were trying to overdrive them, or they were not appropriately cooling them. That's when people were running into problems. They were burning out early. So by backing them off that power, not building up that heat as much, they were having a little more longevity to them. Kind of the same thing with CO2 lasers is a lot of times they'll put in some overkill power supply and they'll underrate the tube, and they'll say, oh, you can run this at, a 60 watt, it's a 50 watt tube, but they put in a 60 watt power supply. So they say, yeah, it's a 60 watt laser. Well, you're overdriving the tube. Now, are you going to see some decreased lifespan? Probably a bit, but the way I look at it is twofold. If you're doing this as a hobbyist, you're probably not running your machine very often or very hard. You're not running it 8, 10 hours a day, 5, 6, 7 days a week. And so it's going to take you a while to get to that duty cycle anyway. If you are running a production shop, you got to ask yourself, am I saving time and money by getting an extra 10, 20% of lifespan out of my tube at what cost in my production? It might be worth you to say, I know I'm going to be doing a little faster damage to this machine, but I'm getting through my work faster, and it's a consumable. I'll replace it at that time. So, it really comes down to making sure you have proper airflow, making sure you keep them clean so that the air that's going through those modules keeps it clean. And yeah, I wouldn't necessarily run it at 100% all the time, but if it's the one job I do once a week for 20 minutes and the rest of the time I'm just doing light engraves versus cuts, I really don't see it being that detrimental to your laser. Flip side, if you're doing a lot of production and it's going to increase your workflow by 25, 30% and save you that time, it's probably worth the cost of the minor extra damage you're doing to it. I put it back to, if you're maintaining your machine and you've got proper flow through the whole thing, you're probably not going to be hurting it running it within the spec from the manufacturers.
And I agree. Guys, like I said, I think I agree with Steve that this is something that with CO2 machines, yes, heat with CO2s because of the tube is going to be a big factor. That's why they have water. That's why they're water cooled and all this stuff. And the higher you run it, the more heat it's going to generate. When you use electricity, no matter what you're doing with it, is going to cause heat. Whether it's an electric motor, whether it's in a light bulb, whatever, it's going to cause heat. And heat is the killer of especially glass tubes, even LED diodes. So all I can offer is that I've got an X-Tool D1 10 watt that I purchased right after they came out a little over a year ago. I've ran it at 100% on almost everything I've done, because if I turn the power down, then I got to turn the speed down. If I turn the speed down, jobs take longer. If jobs take longer, my profit goes down. Okay, so I've run that thing more than, I guarantee you. My 10 watt has. I wish it had a odometer on it, because I promise you, it's got more miles on it than the average person will put on one in a lifetime. And it still works just like it did when I got it out of the box. Could you make an LED diode last 10 years instead of 5 by running at 90%? Yeah, sure. But who here plans on keeping their 20 watt, 10 watt laser for 10 years, 20 years? I'm not. I mean, I do the best I can to keep one for a year before they come out with something better. So to me, I don't see where it's just not worth, to me, cutting the power down. And I'm not saying that it doesn't do more damage. Exercise damages your body, but it also has advantages. So, but if you keep the machine clean and you run it at 100%, I think the difference in the wear and tear, the bearings are going to wear out before the LED diode does, in my opinion, or the stepper motors. I mean, those other parts will fail before that diode does, because you ran it at 90% instead of 100. I don't think it's going to make a difference. So that's just my 2 cents, and I'm not disputing anybody else. Like I said, I haven't done a stress test on them or anything, but I can tell you, you can go back and look at my videos of what I've done with my 10 watt, and I've kept it clean. I've kept it. The biggest thing that if you want to kill a laser, if you just want to kill a laser, the best thing you can do is not clean it and not blow the heat sink out. There's a heat sink beneath the fan in that module. And just like what Steve was saying with the heat being the killer of CO2s, same thing goes for anything electrical. So if you're not taking some compressed air and blowing that heat sink out periodically, then that to me is far worse on a laser than running at 10% less power output. Because if you're running it at 80% and it's not dissipating the heat the way it's supposed to, you're shortening the lifespan much more than you would if you were generating 10 more degrees of heat. So just my 2 cents.
Yeah, I mean the safe answer is, yeah, run it at less than 100%. But if it's quality equipment that's maintained and run within spec, you shouldn't be hurting it much by running it at 100%. But yeah, most people are gonna recommend you don't do that. Again, it comes to, if it's a quality machine and they have balanced the electronics so that it can't overdrive itself, then there shouldn't be a problem with you running it at that as well as you maintain it. And that's true for CO2s or diodes.
Yeah. And as Jack says, if y'all haven't watched mine or Steve's or whoever's videos, don't blow into that fan without putting a Q-tip or something down in there to keep it from spinning, because you can generate electricity and backfeed the motherboard. So just that bad things can happen. You can let the magic smoke out. When you do that, you can't put it back, can you, Steve?
No, it's very tricky.
You let the genie out of the bottle, you can't get her back. Diodes and capacitors tend to pop and make this ominous little smell, and you're like, ugh. But that's why, Joseph, you don't want to spin that fan. Most of the motors, and that's the same thing with moving the gantry. Most of the motors on these things, if you disconnect the motor from the motherboard, it'll actually generate electricity. The faster you move it, the more electricity it generates. And so if you shove the gantry on your machine fast enough, you could theoretically generate enough electricity to fry the motherboard. So that's why you don't want to move those things fast. If you don't believe me, turn your machine off completely, unplug it from the wall, and just gradually speed up moving the gantry, and the light will come on. I've done that. But be careful. You could tear your machine up. Yeah. John said you can't put the genie back in the bottle. He agrees. In a previous life, guys, I worked on CB radios, ham radios, amateur radios of sorts. And I know what it's like to have a capacitor blow up your fingers. I've wired some stuff wrong. Diodes catch fire, resistors catch fire. I've seen it happen. Well, I'm not always saying that all of them will, Jack. I'm just saying it's a good practice with those fans not to blow air into them. Oh, I see Jack's got a call sign, so he knows what I'm talking about. Back in the day, I had 1,200 watts of output, and just keep in mind, guys, 35 was the legal limit, and I had 1,200 watts. You could ask my wife; she couldn't dry clothes or dry her hair while I was talking on the radio because it would trip the main breaker. You could stick your head in my refrigerator and hear me talking. My neighbors could actually hear me talking in their refrigerator because the wiring for the fan or something was picking up the radio waves, and they called me one night and was like, "Hey, we can hear you in our refrigerator." And then it wasn't shortly after that the little white truck showed up. I got out of the radio business. Uh, yeah, he's talking about an old show.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I can tell you. Look out your window and you see that white van in the yard that's got like 19 antennas on it, and some guy in a suit comes walking to your front door. That's like every amateur radio operator's worst nightmare. But anyways, those were back in the day. That was when I used to do a lot of soldering and stuff. I don't do as much anymore. Fuses and caps as large as big coffee cans when they blew. Yeah, and don't. Yeah, and those capacitors that size, don't let them discharge on you either. 'Cause I had a buddy come in my shop one day and picked up a capacitor and was like, "What is this?" And he picked it up and it discharged because I hadn't discharged it yet, and it looked like you had shot a nail or something through his finger. I was like, "What was you thinking?" Yeah, Brian. I had a 12 tube Phantom. It was three driving nine, I think it was. I'm not going to tell y'all what my old handle was. Was that the radio Popo? Yeah, that was the guys from the FCC that came to visit me. Because at the time, legal output was 35 watts. They may have even lowered it since then, but at the time, the most you could run was 35 watts, and I was at like 1,200 and some change. But now, hey, I could sit in my house and talk to people in Mexico, Canada. It was awesome on a radio, on like a two-way. But then the internet came out. I started working on computers. The copper bar between the input and output used to message "Do not touch." Yeah, they will. Yeah, I had a little jumper that I used. Of course, I had a ground bar, and you take that jumper and you could get like a half each from that charge bar on those tubes, and that thing would arc. But anyways, so what else? What other questions we got? Let's quit telling our age here, talking about old tube type radios and stuff. I'm not seeing any new questions. It's just back and forth about So, Steve.
Yeah.
Okay, I was just fixing to start BSing if that question comes up. Here we go.
So interesting that you're getting scorching with air assist at higher speed. You could try speeding it up and adding passes because anytime your laser's lingering there, that's what's going to be causing more of that. If you absolutely can't get away from it, you could uh, try getting a masking material that's laser safe, and then you'll have to weed that off. But that then does help keep the project a little bit cleaner. So I guess it depends on how intricate you mean by intricate. Because if you're getting down to like 1 millimeter width pieces left, then that's going to be a real pain to clean off as well. So I would try adding extra passes and speeding it up. Let's see if that helps.
Yeah, I would agree. The slower you go, the more stain you're going to get. What you're calling scorching is actually the gases coming out of the cut when it comes back through. If it the longer it sits there, it's going to stain it. Another thing too is if you're cutting and you're getting scorching on the top of the cut with air assist, my next question would be, do you have a honeycomb and is there an air gap under your honeycomb? Because that gases should be going out the bottom. I could see having scorching under the bottom, but it's kind of hard to believe it is out top. My shop air compressor. Don't make me lie. I think it's a 30-gallon compressor. It's a twin cylinder Ingersoll Rand. I bought it at Tractor Supply 10 years ago. But I think it's a 30-gallon. But it'll run up to 130 psi, but I think I got it regulated at 120. Am I still pixelated, guys?
Yeah,
I mean, I don't
yeah.
know what the heck's going on. Maybe the next live we'll do inside the house, and that way I can know if it's the internet connection or the
Well,
laptop.
it seemed to be. It started when you did your screen sharing, your photo sharing, and then it got pixelated then, and then never
Okay,
stopped.
hang on.
So
How about
um,
did that change anything?
yeah, paused it briefly, but still kind of pixely. But maybe it's clearing up. Maybe I don't know. Give it a minute. As
I don't
far
know.
as running off of a larger compressor, the thing I look towards is California Air Tools makes a quiet air compressor, and I think it's a 8 gallon. So it's kind of one of those handheld, or it's got a handle on the wheel, kind of card round thing. That works well on even larger CO2s, as well as you could hook it up for these. The nice thing on there is they're not quite so loud, so you could run them without disturbing the entire house if you have it running inside. Um, so that's something to look at, and I think it's a little more expensive than your average one, but I think they're right around $250, give or take. And there are some generic versions you can find. Harbor Freight has some generic versions as well as most big box stores, but I've been running more of the quiet models, even on the smaller, like 1.5 and 2 gallon compressors as well. And any case you're doing with a compressor, you always want to make sure you're trapping that air or the moisture that's going to get built up in there before you send it through your laser. So
I was trying to find a comment. Somebody asked about the size of the Acer, and I'm not seeing it.
is that one right there?
Okay. Yes. And I'm just estimating this. It's 25 and a half. It's a little under 25 and a half, but now that's not allowing any room for cables. So 25 and a half by 40, let me see here, 44, almost 45, and that's without the controller slapped to the end of it. So it's a beast. It is a big boy. Uh, so that's your answer. But it is it's heavy. It's 26 pounds. What the shipping weight was?
At least, yeah. Yeah,
Uh,
it's definitely a good size.
See, I get this question a lot, and guys, without going all Steve on y'all and breaking out, too much science, the PSI is it's not a very good way of looking at air assist because PSI inside that regulator, inside the housing before it goes out to the machine, is not going to be the same as it is once it gets into that 1/4 inch hose or once it goes into that cone. I know I see a lot of guys talking about you got to run between this and this PSI. The way that I do it is I set myself up a cut, like I basically just a long, drawn out cut. And I'd sit there and I gradually increase the air pressure until I get the pristine, perfect, like hairline cut that I can get. And then I lock it and I leave it alone. So I really couldn't tell you what PSI to run because I will say that out of the 3 machines that I've got, all 3 of them on the regulator are at different settings. But all 3 of them were tuned to where they would cut the best. Now, Gleek Junkie, I don't think that's the case with the bandwidth because I'm sitting on a gig internet connection. But now, keep in mind, I'm 100 yards from the house, and I think I'm going to add another upgrade my access point out here in the shack because I basically have built myself a 5G mesh network, and I think it's time to retire my old range extender over here.
The funny thing is the small preview that we have in our studio view. You're crisp there. It's just on the main one. So
it could be. It may be an encoding issue.
Something weird
I don't
with
know.
encoding. Yeah, but
Yeah. See, I'm running. I've got 80 extra megs on my browser over here. So I don't know.
Yeah, it is a bit of an art because, for example, the PSI question came up and I had a friend who's running like a Niji 3 Max and he asked me about switching to that because the aquarium pump or whatever, he said, yeah, it's just not cutting it. So he wanted to hook it up to his shop air. I said, well, I don't know, start with 20 to 30 pounds of pressure on there, see how the airflow is.
Woo-hoo!
He had to crank it up to 60 or more before it was getting the appropriate flow at the nozzle of the laser to where it was cutting right. And I'm like, that seems ridiculous to me.
What kind of compressor was he running though?
I don't really know. So
yeah, because see, these little gauges that are on mine don't even show a reading really. It's less than 10.
But yeah, he was saying that it's some really tight, like maybe even less than 1/4 inch inner diameter hose. So I'm like, well, yeah, you're not. The thing is, you're literally looking for air movement and volume. You're looking. Most of the time, these air pumps are rated in their liters per minute flow rather than the actual pressure, and that's something that would be more useful to be able to figure out. So.
Yeah, PSI is useful for such things as impact wrenches or jacks, stuff like that. When you're looking at doing work with the air, but as far as an air assist goes, you're really just wanting to move a whole bunch of air as fast as you can. And it, like I said, I need to get me like a digital gauge to put, somewhere between the regulator and the machines. But I find that I tune it, and when I tune it, get it to just that right point. I mean, it seriously, when I do a cut, it looks like a hair. I mean, you can't even hardly tell where this thing's cutting at.
By the way, your picture's improved.
Did it? I didn't do anything.
Yeah.
Well, I will let y'all know that after this live tonight, I will be upgrading. I just found out that they make a better repeater that goes out here in the shack, so I will be ordering it to go with my TP-Link setup. And it's got to be internet. Guys, and you could ask Steve. Steve's looked at the specs on this laptop that I'm running, and it's a gaming PC with a video card, 32 gigs of RAM. I've got 16 threads on my processor. I mean, the computer should not be the problem. So,
yeah.
Anyway,
I'm running a much older gaming computer. It's a desktop and such, but it's like a good 7-year-old machine here that I'm running off the shop. Now I am hardwired to my router, so that's one difference. But yeah. So now the question is, do people appreciate you in your high definition glory, or do they want the pixelated clack back?
Well, at least y'all get to see. Somebody mentioned the gun show earlier. At least y'all can see me in all HD clarity now.
Yes. Well, I'm just looking forward. So you posted your photo of you sitting in your enclosure and touting your 6'1" stature.
Hey, It doesn't look like it does. It's like a little kid sitting up there in that enclosure.
Well, just you just wait until I show up at your doorstep someday, and you're gonna feel like you're like 5'2". So
Oh, really?
yeah,
How tall are you? How tall are you?
good. Well, do you want my height now, or what the army said I was?
Well, now, of course.
Well, about 6'5".
Oh, yeah, that's not that much more. I'm not.
No,
Yeah,
I'm just saying.
I work with
I
guys that
I
are 6'5",
I
so I'm
tend to
used to
make
that.
people look and feel short.
No, my buddy Klein is 6'5" or 6'6", and then I got the fire chief that I work around every day. I think he's like 6'5", and I got a bunch of buddies that are like 6'3". I'm used to that. It doesn't bother me. I can still pick them up and throw them down. Now, I don't know if he's in here or not, but Jeff, that came to visit me at one of our Clanton events. He's from Tennessee. He's one of my followers. Dude's huge. Okay, he actually made me feel small, and that doesn't happen very often. Uh, I don't know how tall. I think he was 6'8" or 6'9", but dude's like 400 pounds. Big. I'm talking about bear claws, guys. He could slap you open handed and cut you a flip. But yeah, he was a big dude. And when he walked up to me, he's like, "Are you Clack?" I'm like, "I don't know. Should I be? Should I be somebody else right now?" I don't. That's when anybody that's been on the job, that's when you reach over there with you take your elbow and you kind of bump yourself on the right hip just to make sure there's something metallic there before you answer that
Yes.
question.
He says he's questioning the 6'1".
Hey, Brandy, can you vouch for me? My wife's in here somewhere. But yeah, it's true. It's true. Now, barefoot, yeah, I'm pushing, like maybe not quite. I don't know. Last time I went, they told me I was, which I didn't think I was. Last time I looked, I was 6 foot, but then I went to the doctor the other day, and yeah, they upped me. So I guess I'm getting bigger. I know my stomach's getting bigger. I just didn't know if I didn't know if I was getting taller or not. See there, guys. Look, she agrees. That's my backup. But Steve,
So
there you go.
do you use VCarve? No, I do not. I don't use VCarve for laser drawings. As a matter of fact, I don't even really use Lightburn to do a lot of drawing stuff. I do a lot of my development either in graphics programs, so I'm lucky enough to have access to the Adobe suite, so I can use Illustrator. But then I also use AutoCAD and Google SketchUp to do a lot of design work as well. And then generally from there, I'll export them from either that. So if I'm using my CNC, I'll import those vectors into VCarve and set up the job there. Or in Lightburn, I'll import the vectors as well. But no, I don't do a lot of design work in either Lightburn or VCarve unless it's super simple stuff.
Okay, guys, look, this is a drywall square that is 48 inches, like right here. All right,
Uh,
48's like right there. All right, so
And,
this is
and
like
it's at your
49
shoulder.
inches, and it's at 49 inches. All right, guys. All right, look, there you go. So that's the best I can do. I am not. Hey, at least you know I'm over 4 foot tall. No, I didn't, Brian. Look, it's still in one piece. See, y'all just own me today. See, there it is. It's in one piece. It goes all the way down. And see, even sitting on my stool. See, y'all killing me. Y'all killing me. Standing on a box, man. What is up? See, how come you always get the compliments, and I get just like, I don't know, man. I get razzed every time. Oh, old bleacher material that has been finished. Yeah, go for it. Just make sure it's in an enclosure. Don't huff it.
Any thoughts on engraving on old picture that's been finished? The most likely thing. I I don't think no, you're probably not going to have any issues running through that. It's just going to be hit or miss on how well your specific machine will etch through it. I've done that before where I've finished wood before and then had to go back and add like an engraving on my 60-watt CO2. Sometimes I'd have to run it once just to kind of blast through the varnish and then run it again to get the actual engrave and such that I wanted. The nice thing there is that you're not staining the wood. You just kind of wipe it down afterwards with some alcohol or such to clean it up. But definitely run a if you got some scrap for a test to try to see what it's going to do, run it that way first.
You could always sand it or plane it.
Yeah, if you want to start all over, that's definitely something to do. But if you want that aged look, uh, it's not always an option.
All right, y'all ain't got me. So I'm gonna get a note from my doctor now. I'm gonna be like, gracious to me. Mm, uh, where's it? Oh, I lost it. Hang on. I seen Norton asked a question, something about upgrading. There we go. Well, why am I right clicking? Upgrade to a 10-watt machine. Norbert, if you upgrade to a 10-watt machine, you're probably going to automatically just make the 5-watt an engrave only machine because you're going to be you're going to have so much more time on your hands. And the reason I know this is buddy Klein that I've been training. I've been training him on a 5.5-watt, and I sent him a 20 the other day, and he called me almost in tears because he's like, "Dude, the same burn took 3 hours last night, and only took me 5 minutes tonight." So if you can upgrade, especially if you're doing a lot of cutting, even engraving is going to be I wouldn't say twice as fast because it is kind of a slope, but engraving will be much faster. Jobs will take a fraction of the time that they're taking with the 5.
Now, the only thing, depending on if you're doing like photorealistic engravings, that's where you might really see an advantage to maintain your 5 watt. Those you're going to have marginal increases in your speed versus like just a solid vector engraving. And generally, the detail does get to a finer point there. Is it noticeable to the average person? Maybe not. Just it depends on how detailed and what medium you're working on. Norton white tile versus wood, you're going to see more detail in that kind of ceramic painted on coating versus a natural coating in the wood. But yeah, I would agree. I mean, yeah, you can still cut with the 5 watt, but you're going to wonder why you'd want to because you're going to see a pretty big jump in the performance from 5 to 10 watt on that. So
Yeah. The 12 ounce. I don't know about the 12 ounce. 100 pint mason jars. That's a lot of jars. What size do I use? Oh, it's a 12 ounce. You may want to get a couple of cans. I don't know that one would. I haven't tried to do 100 jars, but if you're very frugal with it, I'd probably still get 2 cans just to be sure.
So, Viking Wind's asking about the image trace in Lightburn and a lot of cleanup. Yeah, really, it's going to depend on your original image. Um, and this is going to be true pretty much in any tracing. You can do some things, so you can reduce the number of colors it's looking at to try to get a more solid one. You can try to increase the contrast of the photo a little bit before doing the trace to get better. But yeah, there's generally a fair amount of cleanup with them, and depending on what you're tracing, sometimes I'll just opt to do it manually myself, with some lines and curves, versus trying to work with, the software's tracing feature. Generally, if it's more of a solid like graphic that has fairly crisp lines, it'll get it close enough that it can work with that. And then text, if there's text in there, I generally just blow that away and just find the font that can rematch it. But yeah, I would agree with you. It's tough to get a really good clean trace in Lightburn unless your image is almost a clean, crisp vector to start with when it was first made. So, you have any tips on that?
You could play with the cutoff, uh, like play with the settings, the cutoff, and the little sliders. Sometimes there's some images you just can't get. I mean, you keep jagged edges, and you can't help it. But I've done a lot of the text, mom's old recipes and stuff like that, and I just sit there and just gradually increase it. And when you're doing a trace like that, especially if it's a picture that has background or anything in it, if you'll drag a square around the part that you want to trace and just kind of cut out the junk from the background, it makes the software, I guess, have a little bit easier time of tracing it and giving you some more defined lines. But and then sometimes even if it's not like a sketch, sometimes that sketch setting it changes kind of the dynamics of how the software operates. Even if it's not a sketch, sometimes that little sketch button you can flip that and it'll actually benefit you on some traces. But yeah, I'm like if you want to get perfectly crisp edges, it's just about like Steve said. It's got to be a like a PNG file or something like that that's already been laid out with really solid lines. Sharon wants to know about 10 to 20 watt increase, and I'm guessing she means like power, speed, productivity.
Sure. Yeah, when it comes to cutting, I would say yes. You're going to see a decent increase in speed on material that your 10-watt can cut. I wouldn't expect to see a huge jump in thickness for a couple reasons. You're still dealing with the same focal uh, distance that the 10-watt has, that's just combined with multiple beams. And you can only move that head so close to these diode lasers. And that's a frustration because you really want to get that focal point to the midpoint of your material to get the best cut possible. But if they only give you about 4 or 5 millimeters of gap between your, the laser module or the shroud and your material, you can't lower it very far. So you can maybe get it halfway into about a half-inch or 6 millimeter piece of wood. But if you're trying to go thicker than that, you're not. So if you're trying to see an increase in power to cut through thicker material, it'll help a little bit, but not as much as people are hoping sometimes. But as far as speed of cutting, yeah, I like I mentioned earlier, I generally will see at least 150% increase from material, the same material that I can cut with a 10-watt jumping up to a 20-watt, sometimes more. Again, it's also going to vary. Does it have a good air assist on it? Setup that can have almost as much effect. If you have a really bad, a good 10-watt laser with a bad air assist, if you can just switch to a better air assist on that same laser, you're going to see a decent increase as well. So,
Oh yeah, yeah. Like I said, it's the shop air. Once I swapped the Acer over to shop air, not knocking their air assist. Like I said, all of those pumps are, they are what they are. They're not going to compare to a twin cylinder, you know, 30 amp pull compressor. But when I put the shop air on it, man, it just changed the whole way the machine works now as far as cutting. Brian, yes, I'm still using the 4 inch, and so far it's doing a good job. Uh, the fan really, to me, and this is my opinion, the fan is more. The size of the enclosure really doesn't matter. It's the amount of smoke generated by the laser and the amount of air that you can exchange from inside your enclosure to the outside world. That's what counts. So the 24 watts really isn't generating that much more smoke than the 20 watt I was running before. And so, yes, it's been able to keep up. Now, if the wattage goes up much more, I could see a 6 inch being needed possibly. But So far, the smoke that it's generating, the 4 inch is keeping up with it really well. I'm still tweaking the airflow through the machine, but so far it seems to be fine. And I am waiting, Steve, and I want somebody to watch this video and do it. I want a focus adjustment on my laser, just like I have on cameras. I'm waiting for somebody to do it. There's somebody somewhere is going to do it to where you can turn a knob and adjust the length of focus. Somebody's got to do it.
I want to say some of them, and maybe even the Niji ones, do have a instead of having a fixed focus, they do have that to where you can adjust the depth of the focus. Um, the CO2 lasers, and I noticed Jack was asking that the CO2s have the same uh, issues. Is that the thing with the CO2 lasers is you can actually swap out the focus lens, and so they'll have a focal length. Your typical CO2, like your 40 to 60 watts, going to come with around a 1.5 to 2 inch focal length lens. And then what you can jump up from there is you can get up to like a 4, or even sometimes a 5 inch focal length on your lens. So that's how much further away from that lens that focal point is going to be. Now, what changes is generally with the longer focal length on that, you do have a deeper, you still have the hourglass shape, but that fine point in the middle stretches out more, but it gets just a touch wider. So you're increasing your kerf a little bit. The amount of material it's going to reduce or cut out, but it's also getting deeper to where it kind of stays in that fine point before it starts diverging again. So yes, they do have that advantage that you can swap out your lenses and get a different focal length to be able to cut a little bit deeper. The trade-off is you're going to get a slightly wider uh, focus spot, and you're going to have a little bigger kerf on
I'm over here making a cut.
it. Clack's just gone to work on us. Um,
We were on the topic, and so I was gonna run this cut here. See if this messes. This may mess. Well, I done got my camera turned off now. But
so,
they were asking about the flow.
well, and tangential to that, we've got another question here. If you want to jump to that, um,
All right.
VT Maker is asking about fume eaters. Um,
Uh, there we go. Those are, if you gotta have one, use it. If not, vent outdoors. That's my advice.
uh, so yeah, if it's your only choice, you need to be prepared to spend a lot of money to actually completely extract all the particulate and the smoke smell from it. Most of the ones that are being offered that are a few $100s are not going to do enough to remove the smell that's coming out from these. And if you can smell it, that means the particulate's coming through, and it's not doing your lungs any favor. So I guess it depends on what your goal is. If you're just trying to reduce the smell, but you're still piping it outside, yeah, some of these cheaper ones that you see from like OhmTech and Monport will probably work. But what you're looking for to completely contain it in an inside space and filter it out, you're looking for these BOFA filtration systems, and they're generally on the very low end, going to be around $1,500, $2,000 on up, and the filters that go with them are not cheap either. So um, if you're trying to do it in enclosed space and not vent outside at all, it's definitely going to cost you some money. If you're trying to just kind of filter the air before you pump it outside, you can probably get by with some of these multi-layer and charcoal uh, filters that you see that are a few $100s.
My take on it is, I guess they're better than nothing. But uh, I've used the ComGrow one, and it does okay. But I wouldn't want to be stuck in a bathroom with it running. It just, I, like Steve said, there's commercial ones that would be better suited, but they're just expensive. Your best bet is to put it out a window. Uh, but yeah, there we go, Steve. That is the cut from the Acer with the shop air. No scorching, no nothing. Like it literally looks like a hair laying on the wood, and that is that's what I like. That is no scorching on the front, no scorching on the back, except every now and then where it hits the honeycomb, you can see a little flashback on the back side. But that's from the honeycomb, and you're going to get that regardless of what it's sitting on. But
Jack's asking how much of an event does changing the lenses on CO2 become? The stock lens, it's pretty minor. You pop out a sleeve with a set kind of a thumb screw, drops the tube and the cone down, and then there's a kind of a ring on the inside that you need to move out, and then drop the new lens in, put it back in. That 2 to 3 minutes tops, and then get your focus tool set for that. However, there are some companies like American Photonics that have even easier. It's literally kind of encased. You drop the tube out, you unscrew it, you screw the thing back in, put it in, and you could have that swapped out in a matter of about a minute. The difference being is depending on how you focus it, then if you have an autofocus, you might need to change that up. But on a lot of them, they'll just give you kind of a spacer tool that says, here, set this underneath the cone, and then you'll be focused at the top of your material. So it's really not a big thing. Should only be matter of a couple minutes to swap those out if you've got everything kind of on hand and organized.
I've only changed the head out on my CO2, so I couldn't really answer that one. I did put an air assist and a new lens in the last mirror, but that was it. Oh, get a speed controller. Yeah, well, like I said, I'm having plenty. I mean, y'all saw the smoke build up just now. The 4-inch seems to be working for me, but as my friend Steve has pointed out before, the longer your duct, the more bends you have, and all that stuff, you're gonna lose efficiency on the fan. So if you've got to run it a long way, you may need a fan, or you may need some bigger duct, whatever. But I think 4-inch, in my opinion, 4-inch should be the minimum for a 20 watt. I don't see a 3-inch being very effective, especially an affordable 3-inch being very effective on a 20 watt. That's what I had a 3-inch before, and it didn't work real well. So I went to a 4, and then I got this Honig 1 that's got a little bit different electronics in it, and it seems to be doing a lot better.
Yeah, the bends, sharp bends and extra length is not good for keeping it efficient. And even if you are running a long distance, I would encourage you to get some straight walled aluminum or tin ducting rather than using the flexible stuff, because all those ribs and ridges in there, they create turbulence, they slow things down. And try to avoid sharp turns. If you can make them nice 45s, that'll help you out as well. So.
And if you're going too far, you may even want to consider an inline relay fan about halfway
Yep.
to wherever you're going out of the building. That way, basically, you have one fan feeding the other one. It's kind of like a step up, just kind of relaying the air pressure. But yeah, Steve, you got a pretty good length of run, don't you? Did you say yours is pretty good little ways? Not like crazy long, but
The one down here, I've got about a 6 foot drop down to the table, and then and depending on how it comes over, so you kind of see it back there. I've got it out just a basement window. I've got a 6-inch fan, and then it comes down to this 4-inch pipe that's about 6 feet down there, and then it could be another 3 feet here if I need to. So it's a little bit. I mean, it's not. We're not talking like 20, 30 feet, and it does a good job.
yeah.
But
Yeah, and guys, I don't know if y'all have seen them or not, but you can go on Amazon and you can go in most of your hardware stores. A lot of people are using these new little portable air conditioners that most of them have a duct that has to go out a window. And so you can buy these little plastic slides. You could actually, I've thought about cutting one with a laser and using a couple of wing nuts to make it. But it basically, you raise your window up, you set this thing in the window, and then the window sets down on top of it, and it gives you a way of venting outside. And especially if you're just doing it on the weekends, then you can put it in, enjoy your laser. When you get done, you can take it out and let the window back down.
Now, if you have a screen on the outside, it's going to get all that gunk that your fan also gets. So just be mindful. You're gonna, you're either going to need to clean it for
Yeah.
yourself, or if you're renting, your landlord's not going to be too happy about that either. But
Well, yeah,
just
I forget
don't
about
let it get built up
that.
too bad. So
Yeah. Somebody said my lips and my audio wasn't synced up.
I wonder if that's seems pretty close on my side, but
Okay. Yeah, guys, I'm telling you, when I get off of here tonight, I'm ordering some internet stuff. I may even be dragging some Cat 5 cable next week. I've got the tool and everything. I don't think I've got enough cable to reach the house, though. I have to go get a roll. Break out the old edger, dig me a little trench, bury some Cat 5.
I was lucky enough that when I built my garage now shop, a friend of mine ran his own low voltage installation company, and he had some exterior rated Cat 6 cable. He's like, "Hey, you want to run this out to your shop?" I'm like, "Sure." So he ran two of them, along
Oh,
with some coax as well. So
yeah. I think I'll be fine. What I'm going to do is I'm going to order me probably 2 more mesh routers. I'm going to put one in the bedroom that's closest to my shop, and then replace it. I'm actually might could just get away with putting one in my bedroom and not replacing the one that's out here. But I'm pretty sure that's going to be what it is. Because I've got a gig of internet in the house, but I checked it a while ago, and I was only getting like 100 megs out here. So I need to upgrade that. The
I think
frost
this
line,
is actually, yeah, that's actually
Brian?
above ground. That's above ground for them down
Yeah.
there.
Yeah. The frost line here is, let's see, how tall is grass? I'd say probably, I cut my grass usually at about 1.5 inches. So I'm going to say it's probably about 1.25 inches above the ground. Yeah. Do you
I,
have
I
Starlink? What's Starlink?
would you
No.
believe that?
I have fiber optic cable, guys. 1 gig. I know what you're thinking. How in the world does this guy who lives in the middle of the woods got fiber optic? I know that's what Steve's thinking. Because keep in mind, guys, this is. Woo! That was loud. Sorry, guys. Oh, but out in the middle of the woods and got 1 gig. But yeah. No, Norbert, I would have to run it underground. If I did it, I would just run it underground. Because to be honest with you, if I buried a piece of Cat 5 cable, it would probably outlast me. Um, I think I've got some 5E over there. I need whatever I need. I need to make sure it run a gig. Starlink is from the SF Enterprise. But now I've got a fiber optic. Our local electric cooperative actually has the fastest internet in our county. There's people that live in the cities, like Clanton, some of the bigger cities that still have DSL, and I'm out here, you know, 15 miles from town, and I've got a gig of internet because there was some grant money out there for people that lived rural areas that didn't have internet, and so my electric cooperative jumped in there with both feet, and they now have fiber optic cables run underneath the power everywhere it goes. So,
Yeah, there's been a big push the past couple of years, 2, 3 years, for rural internet. There's been a huge disparity for people living out in rural because most of the telecoms go, well, it's not worth it. It costs a lot to put in the infrastructure, so we're not going to do it. But so yeah, there's been a lot of grants going around for that to expand that out places. And yeah, I agree. I live in a city. It's 60, 70,000 people, and we have a sister city just across the river that's basically the same city of another, we're a micropolitan area that's close to 90, 80,000 living in a small area, and just recently have been able to get 1 gig service. I haven't switched to it because I'm lazy and I'm okay with my current provider, but yeah.
well, see, I put the repeater out here back before I got the 1 gig of internet, back when I only had a meg and a half. And I think that my repeaters actually is. I know it's not gigabit compatible, but I just looked it up a little while ago, and they do make a gigabit compatible one that I could put out here. So I'm going to order that tonight, and I'll have that hopefully by the next time we do a live. We can see if the internet is the problem or not, and I'm sure that's what it is, because it's not the computer. I spec'd this computer out myself, and there's no reason why it should be having problems. 100 megs from Starlink. Yeah, I've heard that's isn't that what's his name, Tesla's stuff?
Yep, yep. That's
Yeah.
it's not cheap.
Yeah. Well, I got phone, internet, the whole 9 yards on my fiber, and I think it's, oh Lord, I don't know for sure. I think it's $100, $99 a month. My wife's gonna be like, he don't know, he don't pay the bills.
So
Cable.
so now that your enclosure's done and you've gotten your stove covers in there, what's next?
Well, I've been doing a lot of spring projects because it is spring here in Alabama. That's why I got my short pants on and my sleeveless shirt.
Just like rubbing
Uh,
that in.
yeah, well, and I got no heat on in here tonight. But hey, I did get a price on getting a air conditioner slash heater put in. So I'm working on that. But before I can do that, I've got to insulate, because just on the other side of that board right there, there's about 4 inches of space, and then there's some tin. And so instead of like demoing the entire inside of my shop, I have decided that it'd be much easier for me to take the tin off of the outside, put the insulation in, and then put the tin back, as opposed to taking all of this, stuff off the walls. So that's going to be what I'm concentrating on next. But I do have some projects I'm wanting to do. But guys, when it's cold and wet around here, I spend a lot more time in the shop. But when it's warmer, I spend a lot of time out of the shop. And I would have done a video today with the milling, but I had a guy here that was a friend of a friend, and I didn't want to put him in the spot. But yeah, there'll be some projects coming. I've got a couple of glass things that I'm going to do, and I'm probably going to do a video of the baseball glove that I'm supposed to be having dropped off to me sometime this week. And if I can get my hands on a wooden baseball bat, I want to do one of those. Yeah, I'd love to do the blowed-in insulation, Toby, but I don't know if that's in the budget. I think we're going to go with 24-inch bats, and I'm just going to dress up in a hazmat suit and put it in myself. Because I don't know if y'all realize this or not, but I do pretty much all of my own maintenance around here. The only one job that I can't do or don't know how to do or haven't ever tried to do is that we have a window that has a crack in it that got hit with a rock like a week after we moved into our house that was brand new. And for 20 years, guys, 20 years, and my wife can back me up on this, we have asked a glass guy, different glass people, to please come replace this pane of glass. And it's snake bit. So if anybody's in the glass business and in my area and you want to come fix this window, please help us out, because we can't get anybody to come fix this darn window. But that's the one thing. I replace my own hot water heaters. I do my own plumbing. I do everything. But I don't know how to take this window apart without destroying it and replacing this one little pane of glass that's got a crack. It's not fell out. It's just got a crack. And had one guy come out and wanted to sell us all new windows for like $40,000. And I'm like, dude, I just need one piece of glass, okay? Spare us the sales pitch. But, yeah. Let's just talk about internet. But, yeah, I would love to do the blown-in insulation, but one thing is I'd have to put some plastic up, because, as you can see, these were straight off the mill boards, and so there's like a 1-inch gap between them, and it would wind up, insulation would just grow all through the walls.
Well, I think you'll do fine with the 4-inch thick batting. In my shop, that's the route I went back 14, 15 years ago when I built it. So it's not a tin building. It's a wood frame, 4-inch 2x4 studs, and then so I filled that up. Those, of course, they're 16-inch studs and such, but went with just your typical fiberglass type insulation. Now, of course, it's you know, OSB on the outside, sheathing, Tyvek wrapped, and your typical siding on the outside, and then drywalled on the inside. But it stays pretty. I don't have wild swings. It does get cool in the winter as things cool down, especially when the concrete slab cools down. But then the same thing in the summer as it warms up, it stays cool for a while until that slab underneath really warms up and things go well. So I think that'll do you a lot of good down there to keep the edge off both directions. So
Oh
in
yeah.
fact, my
Uh,
my problem was I sealed it up too tight. First couple of years I was in there. Of course, I'd park vehicles in there in the winter. Snow would accumulate on them. I'd park the vehicles in there. They would warm up. The moisture would drop off the vehicles and evaporate in the shop, and it would go nowhere. So I was starting to get just moisture and issues in there that I had to make sure I was actually circulating a little bit of extra air. So
yeah. Jeff, actually, if you use 5E, you can get a 1 gig connection out of 5E.
yes, you
Am I
can.
not correct on that, Steve?
You can.
Yeah. But yeah, 5E was kind of like the predecessor to 6. But you can run a 1 gig connection on that. And it just, getting Steve to back me up because he actually still does IT stuff. I have retired from the IT world.
Yeah,
Uh,
unfortunately.
what would? Hey, they tried to get me to come out of retirement last week because we had a bunch of problems, and they kept calling this company, and I don't know where these companies getting their people from, but the help desk people aren't generally the most knowledgeable, but they were struggling last week.
Well, I don't know. I tell people at work they better call the help desk. They don't want me helping them. They moved me into management for a reason.
Well, they didn't like it. They were like, "Clack, fix my." And then what's really bad is when the help desk tells them, "I don't know. You're gonna have to call Clack."
Well,
And this is our IT company telling them that now. What wood would you recommend for 1/8 inch or 1/4 inch wood projects that can be cut without burning? And I would like to answer this question for you, Steve, because I know what you're going to say.
okay.
I know
What
what you're
am I
going to
going to
say.
say? What am I going to say?
The 1/8 inch birch that you use to make your model airplane stuff with. That's very dependable. You got a lot of it because you got a good deal on it.
Um, that is one of my standards, but I'll
See?
be honest. I'll be honest. Where I was going to go, if they're not as structural, this
Wow,
is
he's changed it.
this is 8th basswood. So if you're just looking for very clear, there's not a lot of extra grain and bits in there. Very consistent. This is the 1/8 inch stuff. They do make 1/4 inch. I probably have some somewhere. This is stuff you can pick up. I know well, okay, you don't have Menards. They have it there. But you can find this at sometimes at Michael's or Hobby Lobby. Um, stuff is really good for that kind of stuff. It cuts very easily. The birch plywood is nice, but it takes more power to get through. Whereas this is just solid wood. It doesn't have the layers to it. So that's one of the other ones that I really like a lot. But this does cost more than my birch plywood that I use. So
See, I knew you were going to mention the birch, though.
the other option, though, especially talking about 1/4 inch, that's very similar to it is poplar. The thing with poplar is you can have. Let me see if I can find. So here is a sheet that's similar to that basswood. There's a little more figure and grain in it, like that. But the thing with poplar is you can also get some really crazy grained colored stuff. So here's some 1/4 inch stuff that it's, you know,
It's green.
you get some
It's
greens
great.
in there. Sometimes you get some purples in there. So if you want that, that's great. If you're looking for something that's clear, you're going to have to dig through it and find more of the clear stuff. But those are softer woods that are good for more non structural type things. That if they're more just decorative or signs or lanterns, they're not going to be taking a lot of abuse. Those woods are going to be easier to get through and cleaner, and and you can usually find some that has a fairly clear face to it. So
Yeah, I still like my Luan. This stuff works for 90% of the stuff I do. I like it. And it's cheap. It doesn't cost an arm and a leg. Norbert, I'm afraid, sir, it's gonna be a while before I get a new shop. If that's what you're asking. But no, I don't. I don't keep a lot of these machines, Norbert. I have, and this is just me because, as y'all know, I like helping people. I like helping people. I like helping people that enjoy doing woodworking and doing laser projects. And so, when I find someone that's interested in doing laser work and doing woodworking projects, I try to help, like, I don't know, enable them, I guess you could say. Uh, so I've got some friends and some family members that really wanted to try laser, but just didn't want to spend the money because, and so basically I send a laser to live with them that they can use and they can play with. And I also have an agreement with our local, there's a trade school, which is kind of like they teach you a trade. They teach like robotics. They do all kinds of different things at this school. So what do they call it? Technical center or something like that. The instructor there, he's a good guy. He's into drones. I met him years ago back during when I first got into doing drones and flying and stuff like that. And so I've talked to him, and they have agreed to take any machines that I have extra. They're going to take them and use them in the class and teach the kids how to build with them and use them. The only thing is they currently have a CO2 machine, but they have one CO2, but it's not a real big one. But they've never had any experience with diodes. So what I'm going to try to do is I've got a couple of them that I'm going to get together and just go out there and give them to the class so they can use them to do small projects with. And like I said, these kids are kids who aspire to either, build robots or do some kind of crafting type thing as they get older. And so I've already went and talked to him and spoke with the class and all that. So I've got that set up. But most of the machines right now, I've just got them. Like I said, I've got people that are trying them out, using them. And two of the folks are actually my overflow, so that when I get too busy and I can't keep caught up on the jobs, I refer people to them. I build most of the files for them. I've trained them, and so they do the job, make the money to support their own hobby, and they just basically are using a machine that belongs to me. If I need it for a video or a recap or something like that, they bring them over, we do the recap, and they take it back home with them. So I'm managing so far. Now, I can't say eventually I won't run out of room, but so far I'm managing. I know Steve's got like a bunch of them over there at his place too, which I think he's using most of them. I think there's a couple of them he's had to. You're doing kind of the same thing too, aren't you, Steve? You got some friends that you're kind of
yeah,
helping enable their hobbies.
yeah, I've got some friends who I've promised them to anytime they want to use a machine, I'll hook them up with one to try it out and such. And I've talked. So I work at a community college that has a strong technical college, technical institute background. It's actually one of the original ones in the state. And so there's a couple of programs that I've helped with in the past of acquiring their lasers and such. And our graphics communications group, they do a lot of things, both from digital media to screen printing to, your traditional, just paper and newsprint kind of stuff. But they're wanting to get in some exposure into other mediums and such. And so one of the faculty members was talking with me last fall about that, trying to do a demonstration with their classes and see what their program could do about, maybe utilizing a machine or two as well. So yeah, they I try to get them out. I can only use so many of them here. Some of them I do hang on to, if it's a longer term relationship with a vendor that, we're maybe going to have some extra accessories and such come through. I try to keep those maybe on short term loan or, on standby. But yeah, a lot of times they're just going to sit around and get in the way. So got to try to move them out.
Oh yeah. But yeah, that's like I said, guys. I mean, that's now you got to understand too that a lot of stuff that we could be getting. I know Steve's the same way. I've got to the point there's some things that it's just really not. It's not something that you guys are going to be into. But I enjoy being able to get the machines, test them out, give you my honest feedback on how they work, the pros, the cons, and just figure them out. And I enjoy it. I mean, that's why I bought my first laser. I like them. It's fun, and it it gives somebody like myself who really doesn't have any artistic ability the ability to make artsy stuff. So I like that. I'm more of a technical person, not really artsy, but I can use my technical skills to be artsy now. Don't you have a experience with the Sculpt Fun? I don't know if you got the 20 watt. I've had a Sculpt. No, I haven't. I hadn't had a Sculpt Fun.
So I have, um, yeah. So I've worked with the S10, which is their 10 watt, uh, and then I had their S30, the 5 watt version. Um, I do have their 20 watt, their S30 Pro Max. That did come in recently. It's still in the box. Hopefully, will be coming out of the box fairly soon. But that's the one that has the integrated air pump that's controlled off of the controller, so that you can have it turn on and off. So that'll be interesting to see how it functions. The one thing with the Sculpt Fun lasers that I've found is seems to be typical is the hose they use for their air assist is a bigger diameter, but it's really flexible in it, and it when it's coiled up, it gets some of these kinks in there, and so it can have a tendency to want to kink and restrict the airflow. So that's one thing I try to look out for. But you can replace that with your own tubing of sorts. So, but I like the Sculpt Fun machines. My biggest complaint on them, honestly, is their focusing tool. And do I have one handy? It's here we go. I have it on the pegboard in a bag labeled Sculpt Fun Focus Tool because it is a piece of metal that would be easy to misplace.
You might want to hit that with some Cermark.
Yeah, I much prefer when they have something like this that sticks with the module. This over acrylic piece that some of them send, or this that you place under the module. I'm not going to misplace this. It's always there. And this one also, you can take the shroud off and it's still going to function. So it's not going to change things by that. So that's one of my complaints on this one is you've got this little aluminum bar for your focus tool. And but no, they're good machines. I like them. I'm looking forward to trying out that 20 watt as well.
Huh. Yeah, that would I would lose that. I'd be throwing that in the scrap iron pile, not knowing what it was. Um, but yeah, you would think somebody like yourself that has a 3D printer could make a little kickstand for those, and like have it to where you could stick it to the side.
You could. I mean, generally, I just will cut out I'll cut out a measuring tool. You just kind of, I mean, I could measure this, figure out what that height is, and just cut out a step down one that would have the various steps for their heights of like, okay, am I engraving versus cutting 3 millimeter versus cutting 6 millimeter, stuff like that. So
Yeah. All right. Jeff said he did a refresh and it's fixed the problem. So we're gonna. I'm still gonna upgrade my network, guys. I mean, you know, just to be sure. All right. This question here for cutting acrylic, in my opinion, it does a good job. Uh, that's pretty much all I do with my Monport, just because it's not as easy for me to operate as my diodes. But I cut some acrylic. The mount that I use to mount my camera in the new enclosure, I cut it out of orange acrylic and I cut it with a Monport. It does a really good job at cutting acrylic, and typically acrylic comes in a, what is it, 8.5 by 11.5. So basically a sheet of paper sized piece. So it does a good job for acrylic in my experience. I think, Steve, you've got the Monport. Have you got a chance to play around with it yet?
that thing right there. Is it? Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, actually, I was working with it quite a bit today. Now, have you have added air assist on yours, right?
Yes, shop air.
Yeah. So that is the one thing that I would say, whether you're doing acrylic or just wood, that should be standard. it should have that. That's going to make it so much better for cutting that. But yeah, 40 watts of power on a diode, that's going to cut through 1/8 inch and 1/4 inch acrylic with relative ease. So as long as you are okay with fitting into about a 200 by 300 millimeter, which is about 8 by 12 inch area,
Yeah.
it should work fine for that.
Yeah. Now, all right, we're gonna try this again, guys. Everybody, nobody gets seasick. All right, here's nope, wrong side. Here's my little guy right here. All right, and I did put the Cloud Ray air assist nozzle on it, and got that going. I bought too small of a honeycomb, but it works. And I do have it now to where I actually have the ability to raise it up and raise it down, lower it down some, but not as much as I would like, but it is enough for where I can focus it on different materials. So that was a help. But yeah, there we go. But yeah, that air assist nozzle, that was my second air assist nozzle I bought for the machine. The first one I did not like. It was sloppy. I couldn't get the lens to line up right, and so I took it out, just boxed it back up, and bought another one. So, see, you done got Jim talking about it now, Steve. See you, Norbert, if you ain't already left. I do want a 3D printer, but I'm gonna have to keep it in the house. I don't have room out here. It's too dusty. What if I ever do
Mm-hmm.
build the Clack Shack Taj Mahal? I'm gonna have a laser slash printer area. Uh, a news on the X-Tool CO2. Yeah, I've heard some rumors of that. I don't know. I don't know what the deal is with it.
Uh, I think we're going to hear something in March or early April. Is I think their current timeline on more news on that. They also have their smaller F1 laser. That's kind of the combo of a diode and an IR in a small form factor that they are launching here. I think maybe this month they're trying to get those out. So yeah, I would imagine we'd hear something on that in the next 4 to 5 weeks. So
Yeah. Yeah, I haven't really been paying attention to it, guys. I haven't had time to watch TV or. I mean, I've watched Steve's YouTube channel and a few of my friends, but that's about all I've had a chance to watch lately. I've been working on this enclosure over here, like day and night. I get obsessed. My wife says I'm obsessive compulsive. I think I am, maybe. The CNC. See, you didn't talk James into getting the CNC. You've been after me, but you've gotten James.
yeah, no, they are a fun tool to add to a workshop, especially if you're doing a lot of the typical craft fair type items. It really does open up some more options. Some things that you can do the same on the laser you can do on the CNC, but some things you just can't do on the laser that you can on the CNC and vice versa. So it definitely opens up some options. It is a little bit of a different beast. You're definitely dealing with dust extraction and collection. You have to really learn speeds and feeds per bit per material and whatnot. So be prepared to break a few bits and learn some things. But yeah, I enjoy mine. I like it. So um, hopefully, as the weather gets better, I'm gonna get some more content on mine. They're out in my outdoor shop. That's it's heated, but I gotta spend a lot of money to bring it up to a real comfortable level. And then if I'm dumping that air outside, it just doesn't make sense. So I get out there when I need to do it, but I don't hang out there too long. Just it costs a lot to heat that thing up, and then so
Yep. Do you have a 3018 CNC? I don't even know what that is. I'm not even gonna pretend.
uh, no. There are some
So I'd get.
so like Is that like the small Comgro one and such? I know there's a few of those
Not
kind
sure.
of small desktop with a like a brushed motor spindle.
Yeah, I'm afraid to be searching for much. I'm afraid I'll mess my video up and everybody will say I look fuzzy again.
Yeah,
Hi
there are
from
some very
Canada.
inexpensive. Yeah, the Robo 3018. So like Comgro does those, and they're a good learning tool. I wouldn't say you're going to do a whole lot with them necessarily, but they're a good way to kind of just cut your teeth onto them, be able to do some smaller items and such.
It
But
would probably be a cheap. Go ahead.
good, yeah, no, go ahead.
I said it would probably be a cheap way to find out if it's one of those things that just really bugs you and you don't want to do it.
Yeah, so yeah, yes and no. I think that there's a point where some people they'll buy way too of an expensive tool to do what they need, and then there's if you buy a really bad tool and then you don't like it, well, was it because you underbought versus getting the
Yeah.
right tool for the job? I'm not saying
I
people have
get
to
you.
go out there and
Yeah.
buy Festool dominoes to build furniture. That's a $10,000 device that a biscuit joiner will do. I'm not going to say that I actually have one, but uh, you don't need that one over the other. But in some cases, if you underdo it and you over expect from it, then you're kind of disappointed in the
Yeah.
same line. But a lot of it is,
Yeah.
yeah, you got to learn how they function and what you're working with. And a smaller desktop unit is going to be far less destructive to your wallet and and to your material and such. So it's a good way to dip your toe into it. So
Yeah. He says he didn't get a chance to. Eddie said he didn't get a chance to watch, but apparently he did tonight. So congratulations,
all right,
Eddie. Glad to have you.
nice.
We are running a little long tonight, but there was some folks here. So like I said, I don't guess Steve had anywhere to be. Steve, this is going to be your question because, like I said, I don't do the CNC thing. So
Yeah. So this is one of those where when people complain about spending $60 on Lightburn, I kind of go, well, just wait till you dip your toe into CNC control software. Um, so there are some. What is it? Carbide Create has their kind of online. They have kind of a free version of their Carve Co software. And they also have a monthly rate for their more pro version. I haven't used that in a while, and they may have changed their terms on that, but that's one way to do some basic stuff without a whole lot of cost. You can use, if you want to learn Fusion 360, they do have both CAD and CAM in there so that you could set up your tool paths and export it. There's definitely a free trial, and there are ways to get the basic free version. But much as Lightburn is the standard for most lasers, um, VCarve is probably the most popular one. I have the pro version that's like $600. I think they have a desktop version, so it's like 24 by 24. That's maybe just under 400. I haven't looked at it recently. Um, yeah, it's expensive, but it makes the experience so much easier. There's a lot of, when you're looking at sharing files, VCarve is one that's very popular and such. So um, there are some options out there to try it without it. There actually used to be one that I played with years ago. I mean, we're talking like 12, 13 years ago. It was actually a plugin for SketchUp. That's back when SketchUp was free. This was a plugin that was free. I could create all the G code in there as well. So there's definitely other tools out there. I just haven't paid as close attention to them after having using VCarve for the past 6 or so years. So
Steve, you got a cat?
I do have a cat, and I hear it outside my door.
I was looking around. I was like, is that my cat or is that Steve's?
Let me see which one it is. Let's see here.
I was like, either one of my cats is
Who's
desperately
yawning?
wanting me to do something.
Come here. Come here.
Uh oh.
All right. There we are. Oh,
Oh yeah, that's a cat. It's like a little
yep.
baby panther.
This is my buddy.
Yeah, I thought it was one of mine, and I kept looking around, and I was like, I don't see them anywhere, but I'm hearing them. Yeah, like I said, I would love to get a CNC, but one, I don't have room right now, and two, man, I got so much stuff going on with what I've already got. The tools, I don't have time to. Now you're starting to look like me, Steve. I don't have time to run the machines I got like I want let alone trying to get into another one right now. That's like my buddy was giving me a hard time today because he's like, man, this sawmill's just sitting here ruining. There is such a thing as too many tools, not enough time. I'll just throw that out
Mm-hmm.
there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Steve definitely feeds his cats, guys. It's just
He's
no, but if they think that one's fat though, where's Fluffy at around here? I don't know where
so
she run off to. Get.
we adopted this guy
Come here.
about 9 months ago, give or take. He'll turn one next month.
Check this pudgy thing right here out. Y'all want to talk about girth?
All right, you want to get
I
down?
called and I got two of them. All right. But yeah, this one's really fluffy, like very fluffy. See, like big round cat. And all right, I just started something now. I should have left them alone. There's Callie. All right, sorry guys. I shouldn't have been teasing like that. My bad. But yep, cats and lasers. If it weren't for these cats, I'm gonna be honest with you guys. I was like not a cat person. I'm a dog person, born a dog person. Never had a cat. But then my youngest daughter loves cats, and I let her talk me into getting these cats. And these were rescues that were destined to not have a good life. And I got 4 of them because I figured with 2 German Shepherds, they weren't going to make it. And to my surprise, 3 out of the 4 survived the first year. So I've had these cats now for 6 or 7 years. They were wild and would bite you when we first got them. And now they're just lap cats. But they keep the mice and squirrels and stuff like that out of the clack shack. So that's why they live here. Is because if there's a mouse in here, I want it gone. And I haven't had a mouse since they came to live here. So very happy about that. Put a leash on your cat and take her for walks. Now, believe it or not, these cats are free range. These are free range cats, guys. I mean, these cats don't like stay in the house. They've got a little like an 8-inch cat door over there that they go in and out of, and they go out and like chase squirrels and chipmunks and stuff all day. But Fluffy's always been Fluffy. She's just that way. But somebody asked about bamboo. I'm going to get me a big. I know where there's a patch of bamboo at. I could try that, I guess. There's a patch right down the street from me.
I mean, it should work. Now, how well is the result going to be? I mean, you got to remember that bamboo is basically a grass, and it's going to be kind of veiny, and so you're probably going to have some pretty good variations in. It's not going to be a super even engrave and such, but yeah, I think that'd be something interesting to see.
All right, well, we fixed to have to wrap it up, Steve. We'll be here all night
Yeah.
if we don't. I know I've got to work tomorrow. I don't know about you. Are you getting off for like National Marshmallow Day or what?
No. No, actually, this past week was quite interesting because we did have President's Day off. And then Tuesday was my work from home day, and then they decided with the impending snowstorm that they were threatening to be a huge storm. We ended up closing campus for Wednesday and Thursday, so I was out for that, and then I had half of Friday off to go visit the dentist, so that was fun. So I didn't spend a lot of time at work. Well, at work, I do a lot of work from home as well. But I got to be at work tomorrow, and most of the week. I was just looking at my calendar. I got a number of meetings that are going to drag me there.
Yeah.
So.
Now, Roger, I've got a patch. I don't know how big the stuff's going to be, but I know where there's a couple of patches near here where I can get some pretty substantial bamboo. I used to go down the road here and get bean stalks, cut the bamboo for bean stalks to stalk my beans with. But then I got a sawmill, so now I just cut oak sticks. But anyway, yeah. Winding it down, guys. So if you got any questions, last minute questions, remarks, if anybody wants to compliment Steve on his beard or his hat tonight, you're running out of time. You didn't get any compliments on your stuff tonight. They They were roasting on me, but they weren't really like, I don't know. What was it? What, I don't know how to put it. Uh, I guess they were just trying to like, I don't know, score points with you last week or something because everybody was complimenting you.
Well, I mean, I won't turn it down.
Yeah. But anyway, guys, appreciate you. See, there it is. Brian says Steve's handsome as ever. Yeah, thanks for that, Brian. We need at least a couple of compliments. See, all I get is like, Clack's fuzzy. Clack's lips don't move with his voice. That's all I get. But yeah, Sharon, thanks for coming, guys. Like I said, anytime y'all have questions, you can feel free to message us. But always say, my wife says Steve's pretty. Let's throw that up there. Let's throw that up there. But 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 anytime you got questions, let us know. Anytime you got content, like because I don't know about Steve, but sometimes guys, it's like the questions that I get by Facebook or the questions that I get sent through Etsy or whatever. Typically, that's where I get my ideas for videos. So if you have an idea for a video, I can't promise you that we'll do it, but shoot us an email, send us a message on Facebook, drop it in the group. We do have the group Steve just put up there for our
Mm-hmm.
laser engraving community. That's more for you guys than it is for me and Steve. Now, of course, the lives, we'll put them in there to let everybody, join or say that they're coming or whatever. But y'all can share your pictures, share your videos, ask questions. And a lot of you guys that are in the audience, to be honest with you, have just as much knowledge about this stuff or more than me and Steve at times. Me and Steve just, we like to get on the camera and talk about it. Some of you guys actually have the same knowledge. So a lot of times you can help each other instead of us even having to chime in. So go join that group. But I'm going to leave it to you, Steve. Let you, Bridget, what you
Yeah.
need to mention about your
Drop
lenses. Your
drop
lenses.
the drop the link to that group in both channels there. So definitely follow that up. Hit that join button and share what you're doing. Ask questions there as well. That's a good way to connect with us. I know, sometimes when people email me or try to send me messages through my typical Facebook pages, they'll get lost in various filters and such. So that's definitely a good way to go. And yeah, like I say, if you, I'm always, sometimes I get in my own head trying to figure out, what makes a good video for someone. What do they want to learn about? And I'll overthink it. And sometimes it's a simple thing. So uh, definitely throw us those questions that way. If we can make a video out of it, help more people, that's a win for everyone. So hope that we can get some good ideas flowing there as well. And enjoy everybody coming here. Make sure you like the videos. Go ahead and leave comments on them as well. That definitely helps our YouTube metrics to get more people in here as well. And I don't know. We will see you all next week.
Yes, sir. Thank you, guys. Be safe and have a good day.